guys all saw that Jeff Bezos made $18 billion in a day thanks to coronavirus, increasing, of course, the sales on Amazon, and so the stock price went up, and he was $18 billion richer in a 24-hour period, which is just incredible. So, Sarah says to me, Neil, how should I handle the backlash against Jeff Bezos making $18 billion in a day with my family? So I assume here that Sarah's getting lots of shit because Jeff Bezos not only is unbelievably wealthy, but also getting wealthier by the minute, and also he has got some somewhat nefarious tax things going on too. So she's getting some shit at home, I guess, is the bottom line for that. So I thought it'd be quite kind of interesting to give you, because this is something that I do a lot of, which is to study different marketplaces and kind of look at the way that geopolitically things are panning out as far as the e-commerce market goes. Because what, of course, I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what's next. I'm trying to figure out what's likely to happen going forward in the world in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. What's probably going to happen, because I'm looking to position myself, as always, at the front of these things, so I can ride the coattails of a natural shift that's happening geopolitically, whether that's within China or in India, for instance, something that Brad Holland knows a lot about, the Indian market and how much money you can make there. Whatever it may be, if you pay attention, you can really make a lot of money. You can really, really make a lot of money. So I thought what I would do for something a little bit different for us is kind of take you through what's currently happening geopolitically with regards to e-commerce and e-commerce in general. And in a roundabout kind of way, I'm also going to answer Sarah's question about how to deal with her family giving her shit for making Jeff even more richer, okay? So I have entitled this, How Jeff Bezos Prevents Chinese E-Commerce Domination. So let us start at the beginning. So here we go. I'm going to walk you through it all. So through currency manipulation over the last 20 to 25 years, China has positioned itself unbelievably well as the manufacturing hub of the world. So pretty much when you think about manufacturing and what's happening around the world, and where certainly first world Western countries go to predominantly to get manufacturing done, it's pretty obvious that they go to China. So, and that was, of course, all part of a strategic plan by China to influence that using currency manipulation and a whole host of other things that they did. Got into a weird Scottish accent there. So, breaking it down, they, for one of a better, they really dominate manufacturing and what's going on with manufacturing, okay? But not only that, they've also very, very smartly, much to America's chagrin, because America's really got left behind with regards to this, they have also moved to take control of other countries and the manufacturing within other countries. So again, through currency manipulation on China's part, they've been able to go into other countries such as Africa, which is going to be a massive, massive game, 2100 and beyond. They've been buying up factories, moving production into Africa and other countries as well, at a massive, massive rate of knots. So again, that's all through currency manipulation and also through a very, very strategic, long-term plan to dominate the e-commerce globally. Okay. All right. So that's manufacturing, and it's fair to say, I think you'll agree, that China dominates manufacturing around the world. But now that's only one particular aspect of e-commerce. So let's think about the actual supply chain of e-commerce. All right, let's make this a little bit interactive. You tell me, what do you think? So we've got manufacturing. Let's think about the e-commerce supply chain. What is the next step in the e-commerce supply chain as far as, so you've got manufacturing, what happens next to those products that's been manufactured? You tell me. Well, I have a little slurp of my water. Freight, shipping, distribution. Yeah, you guys are good. Shipping and freight. All right, that's good. Shipping and freight is next as far as the global high-level supply chain goes for e-commerce. I'm not talking about individual sellers. I'm talking about global supply chain, all right? So next comes then, so you've got your product in your factory. It then goes to the port. And so the next part of the process for supply chain is control of the ports. So within China, of course, China controls all of its own ports, and nobody else owns any percentage, not to the best of my knowledge anyway, I'm happy to be corrected on that, but to my knowledge, China has never sold any interests in any of its ports. And here's what's interesting. So we already know, for instance, that China has for a long time, and again, this is a big plan they've got, China has for a long time been buying up stakes in ports around the world. So everywhere from the port in Darwin through to ports in Europe, through to ports in the USA, and many more. Because, think about this, if you control the ports, you can control and influence what comes into the ports, and how long it has to stay in the port before it goes on, thereby manipulating what happens globally for supply and demand within the greater global economy. All right, so it's a very important thing to control, and China has been masterful at controlling that. And it was aided, of course, by the global financial crisis, where they were able to go in there and buy heaps and heaps of ports. So, for instance, the port in Greece, which is one of the biggest ports in the world, just has great access to the Suez Canal, all that kind of stuff. China's recently purchased 68 or 9% of that particular port. Again, it's a master plan. They are following a plan. All right, that's the thing on Greece as well. It's very clever. So you control the ports. What's next? Well, next comes the freighters that arrive in the port and get loaded with freight to then take a right around the world. So for many years, the Greeks were number one as far as the ownership of those freighters went. And if you don't know what a freighter is, it's just a big ship, what carries those big boxes that get put onto it. And you would have seen them. There may be one on here. I don't know. No, there's not, unfortunately. But it's just a huge ship that carries thousands of those huge boxes, all right? That's what a freighter is. And for a long time, Greece owned the game as far as they were concerned. And a guy who's one of the guys I have studied a lot, Aristotle Onassis, he has a great book. Actually, well, he doesn't, but there is a great book all about Aristotle Onassis. I study as many billionaires as I can. He's a bastard, but he's a really clever bastard. And his story is really interesting. So Aristotle Onassis and heaps of others, what they did was after the Second World War, a little bit of history here, after the Second World War, America had heaps and heaps of freighters that they had used to ship their army-related supplies around the world that were sitting idle. And so what people like Aristotle Onassis did was they went and purchased all of those at a huge discount and then used them to create the shipping empires that they built, along with heaps of other Greeks as well who were doing that. Very smart, very smart. So Greece used to own the freighters. However, that has changed. That has changed. Now China has been buying up controlling interests in these freight-related companies as well. So again, they're looking to control every single piece of the supply chain. Amazon's response to that, I don't know if you're aware of this, but this is Amazon's response to that. Amazon recently invested, this is a UK company, but they do artificial intelligence for booking sea freight. So if anybody wants to book some sea freight at scale, this is not for people like us who aren't at scale like that, then they can use Beacon to do that. And of course, that gives Jeff Bezos the opportunity to control which ships and which countries' ships are being used by Beacon to supply the rest of the world. So that's his way of being at the front of China, trying to dominate buying all these freighters, if that makes sense. All right. So there's that. So that's the shipping side of things as well, that China is trying to control, and Jeff Bezos is trying to thwart their efforts to control that. And consider this. Imagine that China controls every step of that process. That can't be good. I mean, just at the fundamental level of a monopoly, that can't be good. Okay? So, again, we've got manufacturing, China for sure. We've got ports, China for sure. We've got freight, China for sure. Although Jeff has been trying to prevent that by doing this sort of thing. What comes next? What comes next? So now we've got the manufacturing, the ports, the getting the product into a new country. We've got the port there as well. And then we've got the actual distribution of the product to the consumers at a consumer level. So let's have a look at that. So you already know about Alibaba, which is huge, of course. It's a massive e-commerce platform, and it actually dwarfs Amazon in scale, but that's only within the Chinese market, whereas Amazon actually dwarfs globally what's happening within that particular e-commerce space. So there's that, Alibaba. But you may not be aware of this company here, which is JD.com. They've been around since, I think, like the late 1990s. I think they've been around. They've been called a few different things, but they are the number 2 player in the e-commerce market in China, and they've got grand aspirations as well. In fact, Walmart has recently made a significant investment into JD.com, which speaks to Walmart's own grand designs for global domination too, and also speaks to Walmart's desire to enter the e-commerce market at scale. So there's that as well. So now you've got 2 huge companies, Alibaba and JD.com, vying for the wallets of consumers to control that aspect of the supply chain too. And of course, then you've got little old Amazon, which is thwarting those efforts to do that. So within the Western world, of course, Amazon dominates, and therefore China doesn't get to control that particular juncture, that particular step of the process. It is not at all difficult for me to imagine that if China controlled all those different aspects, the only people allowed to sell on those platforms would be Chinese sellers. That is not at all difficult for me to imagine. Consider that for a second. All right, so that's the e-commerce side. That's the business to consumer side, which is the retail side of selling stuff online e-commerce. What happens next? Well, then you've got the logistical side of getting the product from the warehouse, wherever it is stored, into the hands of the consumer. And you may well say, well, there's nothing China can do there, because in Australia, we've got Ozpost. In the USA, we've got the United States Postal Service. However, the United States Postal Service is moving rapidly towards privatization, which means it goes onto the stock market, which means its shares are up for grabs by whoever wants to buy them. So that would give China a very easy access, a very easy foothold into the that particular aspect of the supply chain, which is actually getting the product from the warehouse into the consumer's hands. A very important step of the process. So What is Jeff Bezos doing to thwart that? Well, two things. Thing number one, you may not know this, but Amazon Flex is Jeff's own kind of United States Postal Service variation of it, where you become a driver, kind of like Uber in a way, but for delivery of parcels. All right, so this is big. They're ramping it up heaps in the United States. It is set to come all over the world. That's going to be a really, really big thing. And that's Jeff trying to stop China controlling that particular aspect of the e-commerce supply chain. Then they're also, of course, working on their robots as well. So the plan will be, and if you look at their patents that they've lodged, their plan is absolutely that they have delivery drivers deliver to a street, and they unpack into one particular vessel, and then from that vessel, which will be housed somewhere on the street, a robot takes over and does the final, 100, 200 meters into the home or to the front door of the customers. That's how the plan is. And so, I say to you that Jeff Bezos is preventing a domination by China of e-commerce, and I believe that is good for all of us. I really think that is good for all of us. What's your thoughts on that? I'm happy to get your own insights to that, but I don't know about you. I would imagine that would be good for all of us to make sure that China didn't have a monopoly on e-commerce globally. So, Sarah, there you go. You can tell your family, your siblings, whoever it was, Jeff Bezos is protecting the world from the nefarious influences of global forces. There you go. So, for me, I love studying this sort of stuff because once you see the way the winds are going and once you see how things are shaping up, it gives you the opportunity, as I said, to position yourself into other markets. So, for instance, India was a market that I got into a long time ago because I could see the way the wind's going. And it was pretty obvious to me that was going to be a huge market that Amazon was going to go after because they'd failed in China because the Chinese government had thwarted Amazon's efforts to get in because they have huge protectionism within their economies, okay? And so it was obvious to me Jeff was going to go into India and try and dominate there instead, and that's exactly what he did. $5 billion US dollars he pumped into their economy for them and to get into that particular market, all right? Very, very interesting. So the more you think about it, the more obvious it becomes. Hope that was useful for you, a little bit different to what I normally do. But that's something that I love studying, that sort of stuff, because again, by studying it, you can make a lot of money. Hey, thanks so much for watching that video, and I hope that you got some massive value from it. Before you go, do you live in Australia? If you do, this is for you. Would you like to learn how to sell things on Amazon here in Australia? Would you like to know what sells really, really well and what sells for the maximum amount of profit? Would you like to know where you can source those products from, whether that be in China or here in Australia, and how to source them so you pay bottom dollar and get maximum value for what you're doing? If you do, please subscribe to my channel and like this video, and you'll learn that and much more. It's the exact same information that people like Jeff from New South Wales have used to make $45,000 a month on Amazon, that Sue, who's from the sunny coast, has used to purchase herself a brand spankly BMW every single year as a result of her e-commerce business, and the lovely Kate from Bowral in New South Wales has used to make $32,000 a year on, a month, not a year, a month on Amazon, and indeed Anthony, who makes $15,000 a month on Amazon, selling, as he puts it, odds and sods. If you'd like to learn the exact same information that they use to maximize their profits for their Amazon businesses, subscribe to this video, like my channel, post below if you want me to teach you something. Okay, I'm out of here. Speak to you soon. Bye. Subscribe. Do it now.